So, it's finally here, and even on the day it was long foretold to arrive. Fulgrim, the Emperor's Children's Daemon Primarch, has gotten his model for Warhammer 40,000, and I am psyched. I've been waiting for Games Workshop to deliver on this one for decades, and literally cannot think of any other model I would rather see. But for me, it is what this is going to do for the lore that's the really interesting part. And thankfully, Games Workshop have not only dropped the images of the new model, but they've given us some tidbits of new lore and some glimpses as to what's coming. Now, you all know I have been putting together how the lore and the tabletop are affecting and driving each other, taking each other to new heights. But this is going to be absolutely epic in scale. It's the first steps on the path of a journey so massive in scope. It's like when Leto beheld the Chaos Gods and wasn't quite sure what he was looking at, as he's only man-sized and was staring at a claw the size of a mountain, unable to fully perceive what it was attached to, let alone the full enormity of the entire being. And that's what this is. This isn't just a massive reveal. It's the beginning of the biggest and baddest narrative, and the most gorgeous and sexy models that Warhammer will have ever delivered up to that point. Now, I was a massive fan of the original Fulgrim model from Epic Warhammer 40,000, but it is tiny. The game was roughly Legiones Imperialis scale, so Fulgrim was smaller than a regular guy in 40k scale. But he was cool, some bat wings and 4 arms, the usual. But this new model, it just takes the cake. Hands down, the sexiest model Games Workshop have probably ever produced. This news is so huge, it's going to revolutionize the standard we hold the quality of Warhammer sculpts to. Everything about it is perfect. From the Oni horns to the crab claw tail, this thing's pretty wild. The armor is exquisite. The weapons are perfection. Even the wings are really nice, so Age of Sigmar players will be familiar with how models like this go together. Sometimes the wings can be a real bitch to put together. But my favorite part is the absolutely awesome flesh mutilation he has going on in his crotch area. The skin is peeled back like something a Cenobite would do in Hellraiser, which is totally where the inspiration for Slaanesh and its demons comes from. For those of you too young to remember, the original movies, well, the first 2, are amazing, and if you are into Slaanesh, then you should definitely watch them. The new remake, well, not so much. Fulgrim's body mutilation is insane, but the entirety of his form is actually a display of the ultimate in sensory body horror. Pleasure and pain, beauty and grotesqueness, all wrapped up into one burrito. I mean, this is the kind of model that makes people start new armies. Which I hope doesn't happen to me, as I already have 12 just for 40k, and I do Age of Sigmar as well. And more models in my painting backlog than I care to admit. So the new sneak peeks we've gotten of the Emperor's Children troops, such as the pauldrons and noise marine sonic weapons and helmets, well, they're awesome too. But I don't know if I was really ready for this level of amazing craftsmanship and detail. The new Fulgrim is definitely a centerpiece model. So what's the Warhammer community website say about the new lore? Fulgrim has arrived in all his terrible glory and magnificence. The Daemon Primarch of Slaanesh is a grotesque manifestation of the great fall of the once noble Emperor's children. The Legion once earned the favor of the Emperor himself, and had the honor of wearing his personal sigil, the Palatine Aquila. That, though, is all ancient history, and now only depravity and pain remain. As the most prideful of his brothers, Fulgrim siding with the War Master Horus and drinking deep the promises of power from the dark gods, was perhaps always inevitable. Already a masterful duelist and warrior of keen talent, his loyalty to Slaanesh was rewarded with a 4-armed serpentine form and power beyond mortal ken. His panoply shifts according to his whims. At times, his arms end in monstrous talons, or perhaps gilded gauntlets. Though his form is rarely fixed, he nevertheless favors the ostentatious and intricate, and enters battle covered in a kaleidoscopic raiment of serrated scales, perfumed silks, glimmering jewels, polished metals, and flayed skin, all silhouetted by vast demonic wings which bear him aloft. Some of his weapons are manifestations of Fulgrim's sheer will, others are trophies taken from worthy opponents, though some have spotted a heavy but relatively plain broadsword among this ever-rotating armory. Okay, this is what I've been trying to express. They're bringing the tabletop and the lore together, and what have I been saying throughout several of my videos? That the main story is the Beckwin books, the Ravener versus Eisenhorn narrative, the King in Yellow storyline itself, is going to be the heavy-handed influence on the tabletop going forward. And who is in those books wielding a plain broadsword and stuck that broadsword through Teke the Smiling One, the Emperor's Children Lord who was directly serving Fulgrim? Alfarius, whose spear was recently also seen on the Warhammer community website. You see, it's all coming together. Okay, sorry for the interjection. Back to what Games Workshop said today. Those of the Emperor's children who have been lucky enough to observe Fulgrim wield this fine but unadorned blade with quicksilver speed say that it bears a great resemblance to a weapon once given to him by someone of great importance many millennia past. By the sweaty balls of the Emperor, is there more to this? Is it Fireblade? Fulgrim comes with 5 different heads, 1 helmeted and 4 permitting you a choice of expressions from furious contempt to withering arrogance. Oh wow, I actually loved the helmeted one and did not see that coming. This latest version of the demonic third Primarch joins his brothers Magnus, Mortarion, and Angron as a plastic kit. Just like them, he appears corrupted by 10,000 years of exposure to the warp. The difference between this new form and the Fulgrim transfigured miniature from the Horus Heresy shows the effect the Empyrean can have on even the most willing of demonic tyrants. Such a grandiose figure is in need of an army, and the Emperor's children still worship and idolize their inconstant, capricious, and ultimately cruel master. What will the new year bring? Okay, so we have Fulgrim showing up in the Beckwin books. We have the sword that was either the blade forged by Ferrus Manus, Fireblade, or wielded by Alfarius and Queen Mab, or it is possibly, and sounds like it is, both of those things, that they're one and the same. Oh, this is massive. I've been screaming it from the mountaintops, guys. Games Workshop is setting the chessboard for the most massive thing yet in Warhammer 40K, whether it be books or the tabletop game. The lore is about to expand in a huge way and is going to be all-encompassing. This time, I want to see the Phoenician finish what he started with slitting Guilliman's throat. Not because I hate Guilliman or anything like that, he's awesome, but because the setting really needs to kill off someone major, a serious main character, because it would be awesome in my opinion. There's no weight to it when red shirts die, so let's drive the story forward, but mostly just because I think Fulgrim is the only one who could do it, by finishing the job he already started. And also I think that Guilliman just needs to be set free. He's basically the Emperor's bitch now, forced to war endlessly for a father who he knows doesn't even care about him. So I think that it's time that Rabute gets some rest, and finally gets to die. But that's just my take. Either way, according to Games Workshop last summer during their Nova Open livestream, we're getting a lot of major shakeups. A lot more than just Fulgrim's return. He's just opening the floodgate, and we're about to get hit with a tsunami. Expect Alfarius, Perturabo, and Lorgar to be close behind. And Layman Russ will be right on Fulgrim's heels. Can't wait to see that. He'll be awesome. I am so excited for all this amazing lore that's on the way. Can't wait to read an actual novel starring Fulgrim in the current timeline instead of the Horus Heresy. What do you guys think? Is the new model awesome? Does it suck and I'm just wrong about how cool it is? Or something in between? And where do you think the lore is going? Will Fulgrim come face to face with the King in Yellow? Is the sword he wields the one Alfarius impelled Teke with? And is that then Fireblade, forged by Ferrus Manus? Merry Slaaneshmas, everyone. This is going to be insane.